What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 20 of Culture 316. I am one of your hosts, Jordan Nahisi.
People.
So first things first, the last 316 space of the year is this Saturday for NXT Deadline, which is slated to be going on Peacock at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we'll be opening our space around 7:45 Eastern Standard Time, 4:45 Western Time, or Pacific Standard Time. I always mix up Pacific with Pacific, but you already know how these spaces go. They're so much fun. Pull up, bring your bevs, bring your smokes, all of the things.
And bring the antics.
So bring the antics. It's the last one of the year. It's the last one until Royal Rumble. So we got to make this one lively as all can be. Second thing, and this is random, we just found out that Brittany Griner is coming home. So shout outs to President Biden for making that happen. She was locked up in a, Russian prison for, I think, the past year, like 9 months or so, because when she came over to Russia to play some basketball, they found I believe like a marijuana cartridge on her and sent her, and obviously she was like sentenced to like 10 years in prison, which is obviously a lot and definitely race related. And
dramatic.
These are one of those moments that are bigger than sports. So we're just glad that our girl BG is coming home. But without further ado, we're gonna get right into the show because Jesus, it is a lot. So first things first, William Regal is officially done with All Elite Wrestling. In the media call with Tony Khan, I believe it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, he stated that he is allowed to be a coach for the WWE, but he is unable to return as an on-screen character until 2024. In last night's edition of AEW Dynamite, Regal said that he was leaving to train with his son. It was later revealed, at least that I found out, that his son is NXT superstar Charlie Dempsey, which makes all of the sense in the world. So with a return being imminent to WWE, how would you rate his run with All Elite Wrestling, and how do you feel about him going back to WWE?
I think it was good. I loved it. I think it was a decent send-off. Because again, someone like William Regal is like a generational talent. You won't see another person that like embodied a heel character the way that William Regal did. And I just feel as though it's amazing that he played a real life role with like one of our next great generational stars as being a heel. MJF. Like, I feel like when people think of a heel now, like what's a really good heel in this generation, they think of MJF. The fact that he played a role not only in real life, but like was able to bring that to a storyline, to bring out a different character, MJF, I think is just so amazing. And I don't think that after a feud like that and a build like that, that you really could top that. Like, I don't think that there's anything else that he would have left to do unless he wanted to do what I suggested last week and like have him manage another talent. So I think he did just enough. I wouldn't go past that. I think he needs to go where his abilities are needed, and that's to come back home. I miss my grandfather. So I'm so happy that he's back. And yeah, I think that was great. 10 out of 10 for his AEW run. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was a 10 out of 10 for his AEW run because he joined at Revolution, which I think was early this year, and I think he was pretty much in and out of the door in less than a year, and he's been white hot ever since. I felt like because he was only in the company for a short amount of time, everything that William Regal was involved in or that he did had some form of purpose, from building the Blackpool Combat Club to his heel turn on Jon Moxley to his allegiance with Maxwell Jacob Friedman, even if it was for a couple of weeks. The fact that he was involved in all of these things during his run, I think made his run so special. Like this is like literally the perfect example of no wasted motion, right? Like he got in, he did his thing, everything that he was assigned with, everything that he was aligned with had a form of a purpose, and he was out of there. And so I think that, I feel like his run was 100% a 10 out of 10. I feel like he is a true professional for leaving the way that he did, at least ending it on screen as opposed to just like not being seen again. But I think that, I was shocked, but not shocked that his son was Charlie Dempsey, because I was watching that man wrestle and I was like, something feels familiar about him. And then when I realized that that was William Regal's son, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I'm very, very eager to see what he's going to do in WWE as a coach. And considering that he's going to have more of a hands on role behind the scenes, I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see his influence over his son. But we want to know what y'all think about this particular topic. How do you feel about William Regal's AEW run? Let us know. But speaking of AEW and speaking of William Regal, his former protege, if you will, is starting a new feud. All right, because the battle between Ricky Starks and Maxwell Jacob Friedman has begun. It begun last night on AEW Dynamite with a very intense promo exchange, and they will be facing each other for the AEW World Championship at Winter is Coming. But I wanted to know your first impressions on this feud. Now that we have it, now that we have MJF and Ricky, how do you feel?
I'm so excited because they were two talents that were birthed out of AEW that I immediately disliked. Not because of me going on social media and being influenced by other people, not because they were forced down our throats. They are very organic, very like easy to like. They feel new, and that's something that I feel like is important because again, the thing that sucks about being a wrestling fan this generation is that you look at people and then they constantly remind you of something else because I get it. They grew up watching wrestling like us.
Right.
Um, so it's nice to see something new and not like an homage paying act. So I like the fact that they are homegrown talents. They're very good at what they do. They're alike but different. They seem like two different bodies of work. Um, and I mean, again, it's been a long time coming for both, with MJF getting the title and us seeing Ricky Starks being utilized properly. And I love that he is going to be MJF's first feud. It does make me upset though, he is going to lose. Like, we are expecting an L out of this. You're not going to have MJF just fucking, But I feel like it's great to at least give him shine where needed, because I do feel like every time they give Ricky Starks an opportunity, it kind of falls flat. It doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't make sense. This is a feud where I feel like regardless if he does win or lose, it's going to help the both of them out. It's going to give MJF his first legitimate feud to go towards his title. And I feel like for Ricky Starks, it's going to be like something concrete on paper that, like, again, makes him feel like a legitimate talent, as opposed to just being like, like a side act. Because I don't look at him as a mid card. I feel like he could be a main event guy, but this is a nice way to build him by putting him around other important people.
Mm.
What do you think?
I agree with you. I am very, very excited about the MJF versus Ricky Starks feud because, number one, Ricky was letting that man have it last night on Dynamite. I was able to
Yeah.
catch the promo a little bit on Twitter, and then I was able to watch it a little bit later. But to hear Ricky come out the way that he did, and to hear Ricky and his charisma and his aura and his promo skills, in addition to his in-ring ability, coupled with the treatment he's been getting over the past some odd months, it's very, very clear to me that Ricky Starks is a main eventer. He's a main event talent. MJF is a main event talent. And to see, like you said, two homegrown talent hit this level and be operating on this level, I feel like it's perfect timing. Now, unfortunately, like you said, I do expect for MJF to take that W when it comes to Winter is Coming. But I feel like this is going to be another star-making match or star-making moment for Ricky Starks. I believe that this is going to send him into the stratosphere. And I think that it's interesting that MJF is labeling this kind of era as the reign of terror. Because if you notice, when Triple H had a reign of terror back in 2004, there were multiple people that, even though he beat them, he made them stars. Example, Randy Orton. Example, Chris Benoit. Example, reintroducing Shawn Michaels back into the main event scene. So Triple H, even though he had a reign of terror similar to how MJF is having a reign of terror, Triple H was able to make stars. And I think that MJF wants to do the same thing. I think that low-key MJF wants to make stars with the feuds and the promos that he's doing. And so it's going to be very, very interesting to kind of see what comes of this. But we want to know what you guys think about this feud, about MJF and Ricky Starks. But we're moving on. So speaking of champions, it looks as if the AEW World Women's Champion Jamie Hayter will be in action next week alongside Britt Baker. They're going to be having a tag team match, and they're going to be facing off against Saraya and a mystery partner of her choosing. So my question is, who do you think Saraya is going to choose as her mystery partner?
Jeez. I was trying to think about it last time. I'm trying to think about talents that are expired at the moment, and then I was also thinking, like, what if they like snuck in a WWE talent? Like, I laughed at the idea of like, what if it was Mandy Rose? But it's not gonna be Mandy Rose, we know that. But that'd be a cute circle back, though, considering she was supposed to work with them and build them up. And now that like she is that girl, like she could hang like not behind Paige but next to Paige. So that'd be great if it was. But obviously that's not realistic. Um, shoot, off of the roster that they have building now, I don't know who. Maybe Ruby Riott. I would love to see, but I think she's in a feud with Tay Conti, so that wouldn't work. But I would love to see like the both of them working with each other because they look like they would make sense besides each other. And also, I feel like Ruby Riott kind of deserves a nice rub. Who better than to put her next to Paige in an important feud? She already has beef with Britt Baker. You know what I mean? She had like one of the coolest fucking debut feuds for the women, even though it was controversial. So I feel like they would make sense. It would remind me a little bit of like AJ Lee and Paige when they had a pair in WWE. You know, it was the odd ones out against the pretty girls. Like I kind of would have loved that. Who do you think?
Ooh, you're gonna like this, or you may. I don't know if you're gonna like this or not. But I think we're gonna see the return of Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander is someone who has been off TV for a while because she sustained an injury. We haven't really seen or heard a lot from her. And before she was injured, Chris Statlander was someone who a lot of the AEW audience was big on. I think that she was also undergoing like a character transformation as well. She was going from like the mystical like space girl to like being a little bit more believable.
I hated that gimmick so much. I'm sorry.
So I think that
I love her. I met her. She's great. This gimmick was ass.
But yeah,
go
like,
on. Sorry.
I think you're good. You're good. I think Chris was somebody that people have a heavy gravitation towards because of who she is as like a person, as an in-ring performer, gimmick aside, and her allegiance with best friends also helps. So I think that seeing her next to Saraya would be a nice little pleasant surprise, considering that she is already within house. And that could be another feud for Britt. If they're planning on keeping Jamie and Britt as best friends and side by side and no one's going to turn on the other, then Britt needs to be a little bit busy. And I feel like Britt can elevate Chris because Britt has always been someone who has elevated the talents of the women's division. So yeah, my pick for next week is going to be Chris Statlander. I think that she's going to make her return. And
I like her.
With Saraya.
I just wish they would stop at. Yeah, no, I like her. I just wish they would stop attaching her at the hip because she really could stand on her own. Like she's a very good worker on her own. But I feel like Tony Khan doesn't fully believe in her. I'm not sure if it was because of the gimmick, because the crowd loves her. Maybe online they hate her, but like everyone loves Chris Statlander, and I feel like she's a great worker. She's a great talent. She does get the crowd going. I think it'd be nice to pair her with Paige, like you just said. That's actually like something I could like see, but I do want her to like work on her own because she could hold her own. Like she's fine. She doesn't need extra padding. That's just what sorry.
I agree with that. I don't think that this is like Saraya's way of developing an alliance officially with somebody. I think she's just looking for a one-off partner. But I agree with you as far as like her standing on her own. I think that she can stand on her own. But I think that the perfect way of her being reintroduced in a way that's going to like put her in a main event or a main event-esque picture is by putting her in a match with arguably three of the biggest women in that division between Saraya, Britt Baker, and Jamie Hayter. You have Saraya and Britt, obviously two of the most influential women in the division. And then you have the champion, Jamie Hayter, who's the world champion. By nature, she's influential. She's a game changer in that division as well. So whoever comes,
Hmm.
in the company of those three is going to automatically get that rub. So I think that Chris is someone that is well deserving of that rub, and I think that she's going to get it. But want to know what everybody else's opinions are? Let us know if you believe that, if you have an idea of who's also going to be the mystery partner of Saraya when they go up against Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. But moving on, so speaking of AEW, this past Sunday, AEW OG Dustin Rhodes formally announced that in 2023 he will be retiring. So, with his retirement on the horizon, do you believe that number one, what are your thoughts, impressions on his legacy, his career, and two, do you think that Goldust should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame?
Honestly, when it came to me and Goldust, I didn't appreciate him at all as a kid, at all.
Mm,
Like I thought he was weird because like I didn't understand what I was looking at.
right.
But I learned to really appreciate his body of work as an adult because like he was like not afraid to do something really odd and really obscure and just go against the grain. It was something that was like comical. I didn't agree with every little thing that he did. I'm still side-eyeing him for the blackface gimmick. But outside of that weird shit that he did, I feel like he's a great talent. I think he was oops, my headphone fell out. Well, we're gonna keep the show going. Um, but can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Can
can
you
still
still
hear
hear
you.
me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Got it. All right. So I feel as though when it came to like in AEW, that's when I really appreciated him because he was like I don't think people discuss this enough, but like the first year at AEW, he was like, in my personal opinion, one of the actual pillars that was trying to hold that show up. Like I feel like my
Mm,
my focus, you would think it would be on Cody Rhodes because he kind of was like the star of AEW. At least they tried to paint him out that way. But no, my focus, like match quality wise, matches I got excited to see went straight to Dustin. Like
mm,
he had put on some great freaking matches, especially for his age. He put over a lot of talent. You could obviously see he cares for the company. He obviously cares for carrying out his family's legacy in the right way. He's very selfless. So I loved him for that. I do feel as though he did play a role in WWE. So I feel like based off of like what he did there, yeah, I do think it's Hall of Fame worthy, but at the same time, when it comes to like the Hall of Fame, I feel like anyone could get into the Hall of Fame now these days.
mm.
But considering the stuff that he did like in his earlier years in WWE, yeah, why not induct him? You know what I mean? How old is the man? Is he in
Right.
his 50s or 60s right now?
Has to be in his 50s. Like, has to be some. I'm gonna look it up. But you can keep going.
No, it's just I feel as though his character work shined in WWE, but his ring work definitely carried out in AEW. I wish they would acknowledge AEW in their Hall of Fame speech, but they're not. But I feel like both sides need to be addressed just because like he's very well rounded. He's
Right.
very well rounded, and I love everything that he's done and attributed to wrestling. I think he's a great person. What about you?
I agree. As it pertains to Dustin Rhodes being extremely selfless, being one of the pillars of AEW, him versus Cody at that first Double or Nothing, I believe it was, absolute classic wrestling storytelling. They did their thing with their match, and I feel like that was something that I feel like now people talk about it, but like that was one of the best matches in the history of that company. Was that brother versus brother match, and seeing him put over the young talent and hearing his stories about him behind the scenes and helping out the younger talent and being kind of like a coach or a mentor in a way is very, very interesting because that's what Dusty did, right? He was like the guy in NXT who was helping people with their promos and their character development. And to see Dustin kind of be Dusty-esque in that way in AEW, I think is really, really heartwarming. And I think that he's going to be known as that. He's going to be known as the performer who had that Hall of Fame career, but also gave back to the industry by helping out the younger guys and girls. Now, as it pertains to him being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, absolutely. Gold Dust as a talent should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, because when we talk about the outrageous, barrier breaking, even feminine facing type of things we never saw in wrestling, that was because of Goldust, right? He was one of the most entertaining characters the WWE has ever had, not to mention a multiple time intercontinental champion. Um, he was one of the most charismatic stars that that company had. And even in the early 2000s, right, when the brand split first got on and popping, and it was '02 and '03, Goldust was one of those guys who was holding it down in any position that you would place him in. Whether you can talk about him going after certain singles titles, you can talk about him in his backstage segments, you could talk about him and his team with Booker T. When they won the tag titles, like Goldust has had a history of being placed anywhere on any show and being able to make it work. So I definitely believe that Goldust has had a Hall of Fame career and that he should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. In fact, I think that he should be inducted into this year's Hall of Fame. If Billy Gunn can be inducted as a member of DX when AEW was first starting to blossom and they were running through New York for WrestleMania, then I think that Goldust should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year in LA. I think that it makes sense. Hunter, make it happen. But we want to know what everybody else's opinions are. So if you believe that Goldust should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, let us know. But speaking of people who be shining like a mug, this past Monday night, um, the internet was set ablaze because our girl Naomi was seen spotted courtside with the AEW undefeated TBS champion Jade Cargo at an Atlanta Hawks game. Don't really have a question about this because I feel like Naomi's still gonna be in WWE. Jade is still gonna be in AEW, but like I just wanted to know your impressions on seeing them together courtside because I thought that was a really important moment.
Oh god, it made me so fucking happy just because like, I mean, like Naomi just has been such like a happy bubble. I've been like watching her page and seeing like the stuff that she's been posting and she just seems like she's just in a so much more happy and healthier headspace. So I completely love that for her. A, B, but the whole this visual just seeing her next to another queen like Jade. I love that picture where they were holding hands and she just wrote a nice paragraph about her and like put a quote about like being queens or whatnot. I was just like, oh my gosh, like this made me mushy on the inside. Like I just love seeing my own people not only win but just be nice and love each other because often at times I do feel like we tear each other down and I just love to see just like the positive energy just bouncing back and forth on either end. I mean, Jade is a queen, amazing, overachieving queen. I love her. Naomi is as well. I love the fact that like it shows that Naomi be watching on the sidelines supporting her sister, and likewise with Jade. I just love that. Like, and I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that. You don't really like get to see that too much. With I don't know. I feel like you don't really see like other females mingling in other promotions too much. I could not that at least I know of. I've seen Sasha do that, but I just thought it was super like cute. It made me happy, made me mushy in the inside. I want to see her, Sasha, Jade, Bianca. I want to see them all link up. Like I want to see them like talking around the table one day just to see. I want to be a fly on the wall for their conversations. Like now I'm interested. It was
Right.
cute. What did you think about the meetup?
So I loved it. Number one, I there have been a couple of exchanges on Twitter over the past 2 to 3 months. Whether it was Soraya coming back, you saw like the interactions between her and Bailey, and you know what I'm saying online. And I feel like we're about to start seeing a lot of women cross mingle in promotions because of the regime in both promotions. I don't think that Tony Khan has ever had a problem with his talent casually mingling with other talent. I don't think that Hunter has a problem with his talent mingling with other talent. So I think that we're going to see a lot of this going forward. But just on the stance of just like it being two of arguably the best black women wrestlers ever in Naomi and Jade, I think that it's so important and it's so pivotal because I feel like women, specifically black women, are always pit against each other in any industry, right? Like it's Beyonce or Rihanna, it's Serena or Venus, right? Like it's so you can go
It's
into any
Naomi or
industry.
Tyra.
Right. Like it's always black women are constantly put against each other, and it's just like, nah, dog, like we could all be winning. Like you could win, I could win, we could all win. And seeing their friendship and seeing them hanging out with each other is just, it's just dope. I love it. And it's interesting because Jade's outfit was made by the AEW seamstress, who I believe is also a black woman. I want to know if this was set up by Tony, or if this was set up by Hunter, or whatever the case may
Did they
be,
get
considering
Sandra?
that, did they get, I don't, I don't, I got to check the name.
The
I just
the
remember
woman
clicking on,
from the woman from Total Divas that was making all the females gears, but especially Cameron and Naomi's gear. They
let me
put her on
check.
the show. I could have swore that in the first year she had signed over there making the ring gears. And if that's the case, I stand her. I stand her. I love her.
Yeah, yeah,
If she's
yeah, it
making
is her.
Jay's
It is her.
gear,
It is her. It is
yes!
her.
Sorry.
You're good. That was intense.
I love her.
That was, yeah. That was Sandra. Sandra was.
I
think
love her
Sandra,
so much. Go ahead.
Sandra was the one who put that outfit together. Yeah, I think she made that outfit. So
Oh,
that
what
may
a
have been like a
queen.
common little,
Snaps.
that they may have been like a common thread. But yeah, like just to see them together and just kind of like doing their thing is just very, very empowering. And Jesus, I'm still recovering from the positive panic attack you just had. But
No,
seeing
I love
them
her
come
so much.
seeing them come together and seeing them at that game was just it's just like a dope moment. And I feel like we're gonna see more of that going forward. But I want to know everybody else's impressions of that. But we're gonna move on. All right, let me make sure we're gonna move on. So while we're on the topic of women's wrestling, I know this is gonna suck the joy right out of you. So while we're on the topic of women's wrestling, Ronda Rousey apparently had a lot to say.
Like, why did you come up like that? Why did you have to come up like that?
Bro, that was perfect. So Ronda Rousey had a lot to say. I don't know if it was a stream or if it was an interview with this past week. She spoke out regarding her botch at the Survivor Series Premium Live event. She also talked about coming back to put over the younger talent. Wanted to know how you felt about that explanation, how you felt about kind of like what she had to say as it pertained to wrestling and that match and that botch. I want to know it all, so just tell me.
I can't with this bitch. I can't. I went off last week about her and her negligence and I actually applauded her in the beginning of her run, but she just progressively gets lazier and lazier and lazier. And that was just a lazy behind answer. She was just laughing through it. She was laughing through her whole explanation. She like literally like took accountability for, yes, that she botched and she fucked it up. But it was like her excuses was, oh, I wanted to practice it at my ring, but the ropes was too loose and we wanted to practice it there, but then this thing happened. And it's just like, you come from a company that has a performance center. Let's start there. B, like, I understand you guys are on the road, but while you're on the road, you can still hit up places that have rings that are functional and working and work in with other new talents that are trying to be in your shoes. You know what I mean? It just irritates, because it's like the first person I thought about, and I know that Sasha's always a conversation on this, but I thought about Sasha because she just finished filming a movie, but I also saw her still training. Because that's what Sasha does. She'll go no matter where she's at, she'll take a pit stop and spend time trying to just sharpen her abilities and learn something new. I have no issue with her wanting to learn Shotzi's move. She said that she took a DDD before and that she saw Shotzi do that and that like she wanted to do that. Cool, awesome, love that you wanted to do something new. But your excuse for like why you couldn't learn it and that it was essentially just on the fly and she just was more focused on the guiding her over the ring thing. I watched that clip 5 times. She didn't even guide her. She just dropped her. She didn't guide shit. She just said that she was focusing on guiding her and like, oh, sorry that I was focusing on protecting her. No, you didn't. She literally just dropped her and then she just impulsively just fell into place. What the fuck do you mean guiding her? You could have killed her. She could have landed improperly. And I watched. I wanted to make sure I was watching the right move. So I sat there and I watched that clip about 5,000 times and watched an NXT another clip of it successfully being done with Bianca or with other talents. And I'm just like, what the fuck did you even do? You didn't sell it, nor did you guide it, nor did you protect her. She's fucking lazy and she's full of excuses. And she irritates me, and I'm sick of her shit. Like, I know this guy go on YouTube, and I shouldn't be swearing this much, but yo, she just gets me. She gets me tight.
She tight.
She gets me so tight. Like, bro, like she doesn't take nothing about this sport seriously. The fact that you're laughing like, oh, everyone wants me to be fired because of this. I guess this warrants me being fired. And she's trying to bring up other people that cause injuries. No, see, these other people, they have a good like record. You know, they actually put on good matches. They actually sell for their opponents. And most times than not, like the botches that happened were from more extreme spots. You know what I mean? I think she tried bringing up Mad Cat Moss and she bought a Big E, which, first of all, don't be speaking on Big E, bitch, before I slap you. The fuck? Don't be commenting on Big E. Because now I have to get extra disrespectful on you. No, absolutely not. Like, literally, she's been progressively fucking lazy. She hasn't done shit for this fucking division. She doesn't care to do more for this division. She doesn't care for pro wrestling, sharpening her tool. None of that. None of that. All I got out of that 2 minutes was just her just playing victim. Yeah, she took accountability because she had no choice to because on fucking film. But, like, she just likes to play victim. Everything is everyone else's fault but Rhonda. When it's simply Rhonda doesn't give a fuck. Rhonda doesn't care. Do I think she should be fired because of it? No, I don't think she should be fired, but I think she shouldn't be booked. She shouldn't be booked. She shouldn't be champion. I'm sick of seeing her. I'm sick of seeing the same argument because that means I have to see her. She's terrible. A detriment to women's wrestling she is. A detriment. And it's crazy because, like, I had so much, like, you know, hope and desire for her when she was going against that feud with Nikki Bella. You know, I was just like, oh, I see something with her. I do see something with her. And it's just like, I hate her as much as I hate Nikki Bella. Like,
Jesus.
I really do. That's a detriment to women's wrestling. Not giving a fuck about nobody but yourself. Going into business for nothing but yourself. And at least Nikki Bella cared for who she hurt. This bitch don't even care. She don't. I'm sorry. That was about a good 5 minutes of me ranting on her. You could go. I'm a cool off. Let me have some water.
So, here's my honest opinion on it. I think that obviously very respectable for her to take accountability for what she did. I think that like you said, that Ronda Rousey, I think there's a couple things that are like without context, right? Like I feel like it's like, oh, well, I guess this warrants me to be fired. I don't think it's a matter of you botching that warrants you to be fired because people mess up all the time. And yeah, people mess up all the time. Some that are still within the company, some that are not within the company. I just think that for me, it's just the underlying tone of not adding value. And that's my thing is like, you can mess up. Everybody messes up. I've never stepped in a ring a day in my life, so I don't know. I don't know like how that would go for me. But for me, it's from a business perspective. From a business perspective, like, are you adding value the way that you're supposed to be adding value? Ronda Rousey was brought in because yes, she was passionate about pro wrestling, and yes, this is a sport that she wanted to get into. But her stock in 2017, 2018 is insurmountably higher than what it is now. And now there's things that have to be reconsidered. Now, the whole thing about putting over younger talent, the reason why I'm a little bit torn about that is because, yes, that is commendable. It's great to want to put over newer, younger talent, right? You just want to give back. But within the past 5 years, you haven't cemented yourself as one of the top 5 in-ring performers in the company when it comes to women alone. Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about putting over talent, the only way that I can see the talent being put over is if it were a segue into that person going into Hollywood, or that segue into a person that's going to have some type of mainstream appeal because of Ronda Rousey's celebrity. I don't see Shotzi doing any movies. I don't see anyone that's going up against Ronda doing anything that is worthy of garnering mainstream media attention. So now it's just like, okay,
Mhm.
I just don't see the point. I don't see the point. And so, do I believe that she can still be of a valuable asset to WWE? Yes. However, like you said, like sis got to get in the lab. She has to hone her craft. She has to be better. Because it's no longer like, oh my God, Ronda Rousey is doing wrestling. That little period is over. Now you have to have something that sustains you. That needs to be your in-ring talent. That needs to be your promos. That needs to be, because guess what? Now, are you just another wrestler? No, but you are a wrestler amongst a pool of talent like Bianca Belair, like Sasha Banks, like Charlotte Flair, like Becky Lynch, like Bailey. You know what I mean? Women who have been holding down their respective divisions for years on end. And it's like, okay, it's no longer good enough that you're Ronda Rousey going into wrestling. Now you have to do what you got to do to separate yourself from the pack and make yourself distinct and make yourself valuable. So that was my whole thing on that. I didn't really have a lot to say on Ronda because I don't I'm very like indifferent when it comes to her, because to me it's just like I just need to see something from you that's going to make me care. That's all. And
Or do
that can
your job.
happen. Yeah, that too. But want to know what everybody else thinks about this particular situation. So let us know how you feel about the Ronda Rousey explanation and so forth, so on. But moving on. So a very, very interesting report came out from Ringside News that could or could not be true. Um, it said that there was a report that emerged that said that Shelton Benjamin's rise to stardom in 2004 uh, was cut short by WWE because they believed that he did not have personality. So my question to you is: do you believe that Shelton Benjamin's 2004 run? I think it was Matt Hardy that said this, but do you believe that Shelton Benjamin's 2004 run could have led him to a world championship, or do you think that the ceiling in WWE was what held Shelton Benjamin back?
It's definitely racially driven because shit, as a kid, I was a big Shelter Benjamin fan. Like what? Like I felt like they didn't play off of his good parts because when they finally started putting him in storylines, they put him in cringy things like something with his mom or something like that. And I feel like they killed him off because they just I feel like if you're not a walking stereotype, a walking caricature of a black person, I feel like they don't know what to do with you. They want to see us dance for some fucking reason or be goofy. Like they want to see us like either be like a R Truth and be like a comedian, or they want to see us dance around. I feel like when you don't do that, they just kind of assume you're boring. Like people say like Apollo Crews is fucking boring. But I don't think he's boring. Sometimes I don't think you necessarily need to be animated to be interesting. Like sometimes it just kind of just shows in what you can do in the ring. And that's when I was a kid watching him. That's what engaged me. I'm like, I want to see that guy more. Just because of what he did in the ring. Like some people just don't really need the character. And I think it's just like a cop out because Brock for the longest didn't really have a personality. He just kind of threw people around and he was just like a big machine. Roman for the longest was very unlikable. Very, very unlikable. But he had a full on run. Um, I feel like again, if you just don't fit into that box that they want you to fit in, then they just don't see nothing to do with you. But if they would have gave him the belt back then, or even now, I feel like fans would be behind it. And he does have a personality because I be seeing his little back and forth with Mia Yim.
Mia Yim?
It's been like years. Like it's so funny. It's a running gag for years. So clearly he knows how to bring something to the table. There is a personality there. We just don't get to see it. But I have seen his promos. I don't. Not all these promos made it onto WWE television, but I have seen like the exit interview promos that he cut, and they're very good. There's definitely something in there with him. He could definitely be goofy if he wants, as per what we could see with him and Mia Yim. I would love to see that running gag brought to TV more. That'd be great. But he also could be very serious. He also could. And again, I just think just because that doesn't fit into their box of what they want black people to do on television, they just kind of just went with the cop out reason of, oh, he's not interesting enough. I think he's very interesting. And I hope that they give him an opportunity before his time runs out, because it kind of sucks because hell, even Jim Cornette even like cited like when he was young and he was in OVW and stuff like that, how this amazing and one of a kind of a talent that he was. Like he was one of the most well-rounded wrestlers that he had all his money in invested in.
Mm.
He had the look, he had the talent, he had the personality, and like Jim don't like nobody. So when he like puts over like a character, you know what I mean? When he
Right.
puts over any talent, like I'm shook. I'm like, all right, I gotta pay attention to this guy because he don't like a lot of people, especially modern day things. Not that he's modern, but still, I just feel like, yeah, it's a cop out. It's a cop out. What do you think?
I think that this highlights something that we've been talking about with WWE for a very long time, and what I've personally been talking about with WWE in wrestling for a very, very long time, which is that uh, when it comes to the diversity in the writing room matters, right? Diversity in the creative rooms matter because a lot of times, uh, what we define as quote unquote personality is really just, does this person fit into the box that I need him to fit into based on where I want him in my show, right? It the whole idea of Shelton Benjamin not being pushed because he didn't have personality is insane to me, because at the time, when you look at the other black talents that were around, the other popular black talents, '04 Booker T. That's about it. Like that Booker T was like the only other popular black talent, and then as years came to follow, I would say within the first 5 years of the WWE WCW merger, so '01 to '06, the most popular African American act was Crime Time, which was a tag team of, JTG, Shad Gaspar, rest in peace, being portrayed as criminals. And so it's like, so wait a
Mm-hmm.
minute, this tag team is big because they were able to successfully portray criminals, but you have guys like Shelton Benjamin, who is a one in a million athlete that can't get pushed and he doesn't have personality. But then, and on the same and other end of the spectrum, it's like you were pushing guys like Heidenreich. Do you
Oh
remember
yeah, that was a
Heidenreich?
nasty era. That was a
Yeah,
nasty era. I hated him
you
as a
had
kid.
you were pushing guys like Heidenreich and Vladimir Kozlov and these big white men,
Jeez, I forgot about these people.
who
Crazy.
didn't have personality. Brock Lesnar was another one of those guys who didn't have personality, but you made it work. You put Brock with Paul Heyman. You still put Heidenreich in a program with The Undertaker. You had Vladimir Kozlov going for a world title at one point. Jack Swagger, someone who was very Shelton Benjamin esque, who also didn't have the best promo skills, was a world champion. So, what makes them different from Shelton Benjamin? It's like one of those things where it's like you're saying that he doesn't have personality, but there are other people who have also had not who also did not have personalities, who were going after world championships, who were going after world champions. And then you also have other black talents that had personality, but that personality was just the ability to exaggerate a caricature of a stereotype. And so it to me, I just think that in 2004, they didn't know what to do with him because there wasn't diversity in the writing room. And by diversity, I not only do I mean a diversity as far as ethnicities, but a diversity as far as lifestyles, cultures, backgrounds, walks of life. Right? If your writing room is Vince and his yes men, it's like that's a tax bracket that's not familiar with the black experience like that. You know what I mean? And so it's like when we talk about Shelton, it's like, yes, I feel like he 100% should have been a world champion. Shelton Benjamin should have been a world champion in '04. He was white hot. He beat Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental Championship. Like, he went up against Triple H, pinned him, and he was more over than anybody. He was one of the most over talents in on Raw. And mind you, that wasn't supposed to happen because Shelton Benjamin was just on SmackDown with Charlie Haas, one half of the world's greatest tag team, and they were over as a tag team. So clearly Shelton Benjamin
Mm-hmm.
had it, but it was just the people that in the places. I feel like there were people in the places of power that didn't know what to do with him because they had a very, very limited perspective on what a black talent can be and should be. That's the way I'm going to keep it. That's the way
Dude,
I'm
he
going
was
to end
popular
my.
in Japan too. I just thought about it. He was
I think he
popular in
was a.
freaking Japan where people
I
can.
think he. I think he was an IWGP Intercontinental Champion. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but yeah, he was
So how
popular in
does a
Japan as well.
culture that doesn't hold on? So how does a culture that doesn't even understand? Well, not that everyone. I'm gonna say that no one over there understands English. But I'm just saying, how does a whole other culture just see the vision before people over here do? And they were able to just make that connection and put the belt on him. Like that to me is just mind boggling. Because you know how in Japan
Well,
they don't always cut promos. You know what I mean? Sometimes
right.
they just tell the story through the ring. Like it's
Right.
crazy how they were able to see that there's money in him.
But I think that I mean that's a totally different discussion when we talk about American culture versus Japanese culture because Japanese culture is very, very rich in respect. Japanese wrestling culture has a whole different set of ideals and values compared to its American counterparts. So when we talk about like America versus Japan, that's a whole different discussion for a totally different day. But I don't even think it was a matter of the crowd because the crowd popped for Shelton in America just like the crowd popped for Shelton in Japan. But this wasn't a crowd thing. This was not a public reception thing. This was a behind the scenes power dynamic. And so if you know what I mean, like if they were able to um if Shelton Benjamin was a world champion, I don't think he was a world champion in Japan. But if he was a world champion in
Mm-hmm.
Japan, that means that the powers that be saw something in him there that the powers that be didn't see in him in America. And then that begs you to ask the question, well, what is the premise of these perceptions surrounding black talent in Japan versus America? And I think that it was just the cultural. Mind you, John Cena had a whole rapper gimmick. He was really out here dropping bars. He took elements of black culture and made it. And I love John Cena, right? And I think that he was even able to, and like Cena was able to like attribute black culture. So this is not a jab at him. So this wasn't even a
Mm-hmm.
black culture thing. But I think that the limits of what and the boundaries of what a black wrestling character or talent can be really started expanding in the past 10 years when it came to the New Day um and the Usos and stuff like that. Like they are the guys that are proving that black talents can be more than just exaggerated caricatures. They can be multifaceted, they can like other things, but it always wasn't like that for black talent, right? Like when there was a point in time where if you were white, you could be anything you wanted to be. But if you wanted to be black and successful, you had to exaggerate a stereotype. And I think that
I think that
that
goes
was the
for all,
yeah,
like
that's
for all
across all
ethnic races.
that's all ethnic races. I also feel like that's a multiple industry. That's a problem in multiple industries. But I could talk about this all day. So let us know how you feel about
Really
Shelton
good.
Benjamin's 2004 run and if you believe that he should have been the world champion. But moving on. So speaking of, because you mentioned Jim Cornette, someone that he really, really does not like. And Vince Russo said something
I
really,
love
really
this feud.
dumb really, really dumb about Seth Rollins. He says that there is nothing special about Seth Rollins. Simple question. Does this say more about Vince Russo or Seth Rollins?
Vince Russo, he's always been a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. I understand more and more every single day why during that dark side of the ring that Jim Cornette said that he wants to outlive him so he could piss on his grave, and if he cannot make it, he will have his wife wheelchair him to the grave and piss on it. I understand it because his takes are god awful. I mean, I appreciate the funny stuff he did back then, but he wasn't like someone that really understood pro wrestling and what makes a good wrestler. If you want like like if there was like a manual, right, to hand out to a bunch of new wrestlers on like all the right things to do to be a successful pro wrestler and how to help out the business and help others, you have it all in Seth Rollins. He has the look. He puts on the one of the arguably the best matches in the modern day era of WWE. He's constantly reinventing himself. And I noticed that while he is inventing himself, he always likes to bring everyone else along his new invention so that he elevates everybody else. Like, he's to a point where he doesn't need the title to be relevant. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
complain when he loses his matches. I don't mind when he loses because at the end of the day, like, it's still a win for Seth Rollins. It's a win for the person that he was going up against, and it's like the win for the company. You know you're really good when you're relevant without a belt. Like, Seth Rollins is it. He is it. I love
Mm-hmm.
him. I love his work. I think that you're an idiot if you don't see any value in Seth Rollins. He, in my personal opinion, is the best person out of the Shield. I think everyone would agree with that part. And just, I feel like if you don't like Seth Rollins, you're either being a hater or you're just out of touch. Because he's it. He is that guy. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
has a Hall of Fame worthy career right now if he wants to retire. He is that much that guy. He carried this company on his back, like, what, throughout, what was it, 2019? I think it was 2019. He carried this whole fucking more than once he carried this company on his back. Like, he's
Mm-hmm.
great. He's awesome. Like, a lot of people gravitate towards Seth before Roman.
Mm-hmm.
Before, like, when that's a crazy thing when there's a 3-man faction and they force you and guide you to like the person in charge, but everyone naturally just goes to not the side
Another
act, but
person.
the yeah, the characters are not supposed to be held in that regard. Seth just does it naturally, so the fact that he doesn't see it, I'm not going to take it to heart because it's Vince Russo, and I don't hold him to be an intelligent person in terms of, you know, people in wrestling. I understand that he played a role backstage, but honestly, nothing that he says really means jack diddly shit to me just because I don't know, he's just not, he's just old, he's out of touch, he just says shit just to get attention sometimes. I think he's an attention whore. Um, yeah, sorry. That's it. That's all I gotta say about him.
So
Go Saf, Team Saf.
here's
Now
what
I'm
I'll
dropping
say.
my headphones.
I'm gonna communicate a principle, and then I'm gonna talk about my viewpoint. I feel like one of the biggest problems in the world and in media, and when it comes to this podcasting stuff, is that some people have the mic on for too long. They did something important at some time, and then they think that because they did one thing good at one time, that they now have credibility forever to talk about anything and anyone, regardless of how uneducated their opinions can be. Vince Russo is that guy. Vince Russo um, was a very, very pivotal part of the Attitude Era for WWE. A lot of the stuff that we witnessed with The Rock, Stone Cold, the realistic stuff that we saw with the WWE Attitude Era that allowed WWE to beat WCW in the ratings war was tied to Vince Russo. He was then hired to go to WCW. Obviously, that worked out the way that it did. So I don't want to make it seem like Vince has never had a good idea or that he wasn't credible at one point. But some people can be so consumed with their past success that they're stuck there. And because they're stuck there, their perceptions and their ideas are stuck there. And I think that that's the reason why he has the perspective of Seth Rollins the way that he does. It's 2022. You look around the world in sports and in entertainment, it's not all about being 6'7", 300 pounds of pure muscle, right? Like, look in the NBA, for example. A lot of these guys, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 6'7", but they're lean, they're cut, but they're not like brawling. You know what I mean? You look around football, a lot of these guys aren't as big as they used to be, but they have the speed, they have the athleticism. And I'm saying this because I feel like in wrestling, there's this perception that you have to look a certain way in order to be a true pro wrestler. But in reality, that's not the way the world works. And I don't think that that's the way that pro wrestling works anymore. You can be any size and get over with the crowd. And when it comes to Seth Rollins, number one, he's in phenomenal shape. Number two, like you said, he is easily, and I've said it before, Seth Rollins is the best pro wrestler on the planet. This guy is creating the best stories with the best characters on the biggest stage in pro wrestling. and he's doing it at a level of consistency that we haven't seen from any other performer since probably Kenny Omega when he was in New Japan. And to be completely honest, there were, Vince was saying, "Oh, I don't think that he's a first ballot." He's for sure a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's probably going to go down as a guy that has multiple Hall of Fame careers between the Shield, his solo career, and I feel like he's going to get another induction based on another faction he's going to do. That's a different story for a different day. But I just think that Seth Rollins is not only a first ballot Hall of Famer, he's going to be a multiple time Hall of Famer. The same way that we're going to talk about Hunter, the same way that we talk about Shawn, guys in the NWO, Four Horsemen. He is a multi time Hall of Famer in the making who has had so many layers to his career that you can take one era and it's Hall of Fame worthy. You know what I mean? Like I just I don't think that Vince Russo uh is right about this, to say the very least. I don't think that he's correct about Seth Rollins. I think that he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think that he's extremely charismatic, great on the mic, great in the ring. Like, you can't really ask for a better pro wrestler than Seth Rollins at this point. But I could be bugging out. But let us know how you feel about Seth freaking
Yeah.
Rollins. But we're moving on. So last Friday night, Hunter gave us another surprise return as Tegan Knox has been brought back to the WWE. She ran in during a segment with Damage Control as they were attacking someone. I wanted to know, from your perspective, do you believe that this helps the SmackDown women's roster, or does it still need more depth and talent?
I'll be honest. I never really was a Tegan Knox fan. I don't dislike her. I just don't find any interest in her. I'm not sure if it's because every single time she was meant to get a push, something happened. Mae
Mm,
Young Classic blew her knees. She was supposed to win, didn't happen. Then the whole thing with her and Dakota Kai. I'll be honest, I didn't even care for that feud. But it made me pay attention to Dakota. She's very boring. I Outside of her being gay, I don't know what else is there about her. I mean, she came out with rainbow hair to like put that to the forefront. She's great in the ring. I like her ring work. She just has like she doesn't bring any character or any type of anything to the ring. Like, some people could just get away with just great ring work and not have to do a damn thing. Like, as far as like character goes, Tegan's just very bland, very
mm.
bland, and maybe she could just maybe she could come back and attempt to reinvent herself and do something else. Off that first impression, I was pretty bored. I was like, okay, like I would have definitely bought in somebody else. She's not going to move a needle. At this point, I'm just thinking, damn, like, can Sasha or Naomi come back any sooner? Because, like, this division is boring.
Mm.
I love Damage Control, but they need, like, someone legit to, like, play with or play around with. And it's just, Tegan is not going to do anything. She didn't do a damn thing in NXT. She didn't do a damn thing here. She's just here. And I feel bad. I feel bad because I want to like her, but she just doesn't do anything for me.
I believe quite the contrary. I like Tegan Knox. She has an insane amount of potential. I've seen glimpses of what she can do in NXT. And might I remind people that before she went down with an injury, her and Dakota Kai was probably one of the best stories that I've seen on NXT. They were going for the best friend turn foe thing, and I really, really liked it. It was a great story, in my opinion. And once again, I believe that this was one of those things when she went up to the main roster. Obviously, during the first go around, like, there were things that she had to modify about herself. Um, and because of that, I don't think that it allowed her to be her full self. But I believe that when we saw her be herself in NXT, it was like, this is someone who could be a star. And I feel like now under Hunter, she's now able to come back into terms of just being herself, and even making more modifications. Um but yeah, I think that she has that potential of actually being a star. And even outside of that, even when she came up to the main roster at first and she started teaming with Shotzi, like people gravitated towards that a lot. You know what I mean? So with all things considered, I think that she does help with the depth. I'll say that again. I think that Tegan Knox returning definitely helps SmackDown's depth problem and talent problem. I think that, you know, there weren't a lot of characters on SmackDown from a women's perspective that where you look and see like, oh, this is a variety of characters. I can relate to this person or this person or this person. So I feel like she helps with the depth and the diversity of the SmackDown women's roster. Um, I believe that her being in there is similar to an NBA team picking up a star player. That person could be a star. That person could also be an exceptional role player. I think that Tegan Knox is that girl. I think she could be either or. However, and I preface this with a however, I still
Yeah.
feel like more work needs to be done. I feel like this is not someone who I would want to see against Ronda Rousey for the title. However, if they do have an A or a B or a C feud in the women's division and they want to do a one-on-one, Tegan can do that. If I want to see another, maybe they want to throw together another team, or maybe they want to put Shotzi back with Tegan, that can work. Tegan can fill a couple of roles, and I could think that it could work. In my personal opinion, I still think that SmackDown has a long way to go. AKA, they just need to bring Sasha Banks back. But I do think that this is a step in the right direction, and I think that this is a great little return for WWE in the sense of Tegan Knox. Apparently, Tegan Knox was actually supposed to be a part of the original Damage Control, which I thought was
Hmm.
very, very interesting. Um, that would have been very interesting seeing Tegan and Dakota again like this, because at one point they were a tag team. That's a very, very interesting thought. But
Hmm.
I was
They
gonna
could
say,
still
did you
make a
have?
four-man faction.
They could, they could.
That actually would work. Now, I was gonna ask because I know a lot of people who are Tegan fans on Twitter at least keep referencing that, oh, you have to watch her indie stuff. Did you watch any of her indie work to see if she did anything differently?
I didn't see any of her indie stuff, and I think that I am gonna watch it. But even just from the stuff that she was doing in NXT, and the Mae Young Classic, I really, really liked it. Like I was sold on that alone. But I'm pretty sure, like
Hmm.
most wrestlers who went through the indie circuit, she probably had an insane amount of stuff, an insane amount of content, and an insane amount of moves that she was displaying on the indie scene that people will be like, "Oh snap, she was good." But I was just sold off of what she did off of NXT alone in the Mae Young Classic alone. So I may have
I was
to
talking about
go
that
back and
break in between, like when she got released and then they bought her back,
I
or
didn't even
did she
see
finish?
anything. She
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
she did get released and then get brought back, but I didn't see anything. That's the crazy
I
part.
could have swore she held a belt before, and everyone was talking about something. I didn't like pay it no mind because I mean, again, I'm not a Tegan fan, but people are saying like if you want to like see like what she's really capable of, gotta watch what she does away from WWE because they don't allow her to bring it. So maybe just maybe I'll watch her a different set of lenses, and maybe Hunter might allow her to bring that type of stuff to the forefront for
Mm-hmm.
you know, her time dealing with damage control or be on the main roster. But yeah, moving on.
Moving on. So is Hunter, and I can't even believe I'm asking this question. Do you believe that Hunter is being stingy? Because according to the Wrestling
Yes.
Observer, WWE talent are not being given bonuses under Triple H's rule as the CCO. Traditionally, Vince McMahon gave the talent bonuses for premium live events and special international events, such as WWE Crown Jewel. So, do you believe that this is intentional or something that will be worked out over time?
I do I think that is stingy. If I was a worker, if I was a talent, yeah, definitely. Because like, bro, like, can you imagine like waiting to just imagine like being catering and then you watch all these other talents get to fly and go across, country and go to Saudi Arabia and all that stuff, and they're coming back with these fat ass fucking checks or whatnot. Like shit, at least it's kind of sort of worth risking your life for. You know what I mean? And now you're finally out of catering. Someone wants to actually book you for a show. You're not getting none of those benefits. I would be pissed.
Mm,
I would be pissed. Now, from a business perspective, because I don't think that Hunter is an idiot, um, I think that I'm not sure if he's using the money for something else, like whether it's supposed to be booking or getting other talents that he wants to acquire. I don't know if it has to do with the NXT stuff that's going on because NXT is opening here and here and here, and they're doing all this extra stuff. So I'm not sure if he's just trying to refund the budget and just put it into more important things. I feel like something has to be brewing to choose to take away bonuses. Do the bonuses apply to champions? Don't champions get bonuses just for being champions? Do they lose that, or is it just for premium events?
This is just for events, so premium live events and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I feel a little bad because, like, like part of the reason why you want to get on pay per view is just because, like, you want that check. Yeah, you want
Mm.
the fans to see you more because the more merch sales if they like you and all that extra stuff. And you want to be booked on TV, but like that's the one of the best incentives. Like you get on pay per view, now you got another fat check. So I don't know, like what rewards are they really reaping then,
Mm.
if you will? I for now disagree with it until I see the why he's doing it. But what do you think?
So I think that this is something that's going to be worked out over time. I think that
Mm-hmm.
while it's a stingy thing, or it seems stingy, I think about guys like Sami Zayn, right, who don't do Saudi shows
Mm-hmm.
because of the ethical issues in Saudi Arabia. And it's like you want guys like Sammy who are operating at the top of their game and is an insane amount of is in of insane value to WWE at the current moment and their product. You want guys like that to be rewarded. You know what I mean? And I feel like what's going to end up happening is that when it comes to contract negotiations, like the money that they get from the Saudi shows as a company is just going to trickle down and hit everyone's contracts kind of equally. And then if they have
Mm-hmm.
like a celebrity who they really, really want to bring in and give them a bunch of money, then they'll throw them a bunch of money, but other talents won't get bonuses. Um, but I feel like this is something that is going to be worked out over time. I just feel like right now we're in the beginning of Triple H's rebuild of WWE, which means that he is bringing back a lot of talent. And once he brings in everybody he feels like he needs, and once he releases a bunch of people that he feels like he doesn't need, I feel like they'll be able to sort out where to go from here as far as who gets bonuses, who gets more money, who gets less money. Because you think about just like this year in WWE alone, between finding out Vince has been paying $15 million in NDAs, between the restructuring of NXT so that now there's 3 to 6 month developmental deals instead of multi-year deals, which was what they were doing before. There's been a lot of financial restructuring in the company. So I don't think that this is about necessarily Hunter being stingy. I think it's just like we got some things we got to sort, and when it's time to get back to it, we'll get back to it. But I mean, it is a very, very interesting topic. So I definitely want to know about how you guys feel about Hunter and all this financial situation and all that. But we're gonna move on because this next topic is the one. So, Pro Wrestling Illustrated announced its top 10 tag teams for the year 2022, and the list is as follows: at 10, we have Violence is Forever. At 9, we have the Hex. At 8, we have the Young Bucks. At 7, we have the Good Brothers. At 6, we have RK Bro. At 5, we have Hazuki and Koguma. At 4, we have Death Triangle. At 3, we have the Briscoes. At 2, we have FTR. And at number 1, we have the Usos. Now, there was a little bit of an exchange between Dax of FTR and the Usos regarding these ratings. And then, next thing you know, the Acclaim defended their AEW World Tag Team titles last night in an absolute banger against FTR. So, do you believe that that FTR deserved to be number 1 over the Usos?
Yeah, I honestly feel like they do. Like, I understand that the reason why they put them as number one is because, it's WWE at the end of the day, and that they've been holding the belts for God knows how long. I don't know how many days it's been that they've been holding the belts. Or it feels like it's been forever that I keep seeing them with the belts. Um, but I swear to God, if this thing don't stop falling out of my ear, Like we want to have problems. God, I can't wait till I have my setback. Anyways. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
Okay, yeah, this headphones a pain in the ass. Um, it pissed me off because I feel like FTR already gets snubbed enough in their own company.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's Tony's fault or the Young Bucks' fault or whatever, because I still think that it was weird, that match that we were looking for between them and Young Bucks and FTR or whatever. I feel like it was weird how long it took for them to actually get the belts and stuff like that. I thought that was just really weird energy. I don't know why they keep getting snubbed, but even while like whether they had the belts or not, I feel like, you know what I mean. Like I feel like they're still the best tag team in the company, no matter what room or wherever the fuck they stand in. And I think that's kind of insane that they acquired what, three tag team belts, but they got the ROH, they got a belt from Japan and a belt from where? What was the third one?
Mexico, AAA.
There's three belts. Yeah, that's just insane. And then that they're number two. And then I was watching the match from last night, and not only was I offended looking at this list because I feel like the Acclaim definitely stole 2022, like even before the belts, they stole 2022 just because like they were new, they were refreshing. They're again, yes, the modern day DX with like a twist or whatever, but like again, they're just like a tag team that's so organic and easy to like. And I just felt like I'm not sure if they planned to have that match. Was this match? The match was probably planned for last week, and this list came out after the fact. But
Mm-hmm.
it just felt like they went even harder with that match and that banger that they put out because of this list. Because like, yo, why wasn't the Acclaim anywhere to be found? And why is FTR not number one? Like they are the best tag team again, no matter what room that they are in, regardless if they have those belts or not. I just found it to be disrespectful. And I like the Usos. Don't get me wrong. I like the Usos a lot. But to put them at number one, I can't tell if they were pandering because half the time with these PWI lists, you kind of can't take them too seriously. Sometimes they're pretty accurate and they make sense. But sometimes I can't help but to think that they compiled these things just to get an argument started like this.
Mm.
Because I don't think that anyone would think that the Usos is better than FTR. I don't even think they're better than the Briscoes, to be honest. If I
Mm.
would have put the Usos somewhere on this list, they'd probably been like number four, respectfully.
Mm.
That's not to just like say that their work didn't matter in WWE with what they done with Vince. They had put on good matches, but they have not put on classics like FTR or the Briscoes. And again, this was the Acclaim's year. They should have been somewhere. So I just find this list to be a joke. I don't know if I should be mad or should I not get mad because I'm going to give them the reaction that they want. They wanted to talk about
Right.
this on the podcast. Well, now you got it. Now you got it. Cause I want to hear your take, Jordy. Cause I feel like you're going to go off about this one.
So I literally have the same sentiments that I had as you, as far um why the Acclaim weren't on the top 10, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple things that are at play, and I'm going to address them all. I
Yeah.
understand why the Usos are considered number one, because they were the second biggest focal point of the number one biggest storyline in wrestling this year. On those
Mm-hmm.
grounds, I get it. I understand. Because their reign was so long, because of where they stand in the bloodline and just the run that they've been on, I get it. Right?
Right.
However, when it comes to FTR, I think that this should have been the first year that they were tied at number one, because I feel like the only reason why FTR can't, logically be placed number one is because of how they were booked on TV. There was a point in time where you saw a Dax singles match, or you saw a Cash singles match, and then you saw them with all these belts, but they were barely on TV. And all the while, they were either the first or second most popular act as far as the tag team division in AEW. So it's like, why aren't they on TV? So in that case, I understand. But at the same time, like, the biggest to me, this list to me is not as much about about FTR and the Usos as it is about the Acclaim not even making it on the top 10. Because the Acclaimed have been easily one of the most over and popular acts in all of wrestling this year. Like,
Yeah.
not to mention the fact that they, like, between their story with, Billy Gunn and the whole Scissor Me thing, it's like the Acclaimed are probably the most over, the most popular tag team in wrestling. And the fact that they haven't even made it onto the top 10 is just weird. It's not even just wild.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
How's the Acclaim not top 10 tag teams in the world? Um, that yeah, but I feel like now if we're talking about FTR and the Usos as far as who is number one, I actually think that FTR is number one. I think that FTR is the best tag team in the world. I think that FTR
Mm.
has more of a premise to say that they're the best tag team in the world because they've essentially gone up against every formidable tag team that there is in every major promotion that there is outside of WWE, right? We could talk about AEW. We could talk about uh, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We could talk about Rev Pro because they did Rev Pro. We could talk about AAA. They've beaten every top dog of every tag team division. So if it is between the Usos and FTR, I'm going FTR. Now the Briscoes deserve to take the L of being third because you can't just say racist things and then expect to be put on air. That's just not the way the
I mean,
game goes. That's
I expect them to be racist. I didn't know what they said, but I kind of expected them to be racist. Is that bad?
Yeah.
What did they say?
Anytime somebody is like, yeah, I like this Confederate flag. Yeah, not inclusive. So they deserve to take that L. But outside of that, yeah, that's just kind of like where I stand. That's just where I stand on them. Now we're gonna move on. So speaking of the Usos, though, it has been rumored that The Rock has been brought up in conversations amongst WWE officials as the man who should win the 2023 Royal Rumble match. Do you believe that The Rock should win the Rumble?
The Rock? Why? I mean,
Possibly, possibly to set up a Rock Roman at WrestleMania 39. But this is just a conversation that WWE officials have been having as far as if The Rock should win the Rumble. So that's just
that's
like my question. Do
stupid.
you think that the
No, that's what I had to ask. So I think that's just dumb. Why take away an opportunity that could be used for another talent? Because The Rock don't need a belt to feud with Roman. The story is there. That is your blood. You could pull up whenever you want. You could pull up whenever you want and just do your whole tired ass. Well, it's not tired ass stick. I love his stick, but you know what I mean. Like you look at this show up and just talk shit, and the story just writes itself. He doesn't need to. Now, would it be fun just for nostalgia and when people walk away and say, "Oh my gosh, that was the best Royal Rumble ever"? You know what I mean? That probably would happen just because it's The Rock, and no one's gonna say no to The Rock. But does The Rock need this? No, because he's not gonna win. Like he's gonna choose a belt, choose Roman, get to the equation that we've been trying to get at for the past 2 years, and he's gonna lose anyways. So you wasted an opportunity that could have went towards another talent. Why would you
Mm,
do that? Like you're doing it. It's like with Liv Morgan. Like you gave her the money in the bank and had her cashed in just for the moment, and then afterwards you realize that it was so stupid because when he goes away to go film another movie, what do we do now to carry the show? That's
mm.
time that another talent could be taking to go and start another feud and to continue building their character. This mic is gonna be the death of me. But you could go on while I put this back in my ear.
So I'm gonna make this quick. I don't think that The Rock should win the Rumble because The Rock doesn't need to win the Royal Rumble. I feel like you have an opportunity, like you said. I honestly still feel like Cody should be the guy that wins the Rumble and then goes on to beat Roman at Mania. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the aura behind WrestleMania 39 being like a celebrity spectacle would be the only reason why I would say The Rock should be involved in a match with Roman. But other than that, though, it's like I just don't know. I feel like The Rock doesn't need the Royal Rumble and the Royal Rumble doesn't need The Rock. I feel like if you're going to do it for anybody, you should do it for Cody Rhodes because there's already a story there. He went out essentially on top. And I just feel like once again, the Rock could even be saved for another event. I feel like the Rock Roman could be a SummerSlam thing, because I feel like
Yeah.
if you're planning on doing stadium shows for all your big fours, right? You might as well save The Rock versus Roman for another stadium show so you can guaranteed sell that out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
WrestleMania 39 is already 90% sold out. It's going to be sold out by the time they hit LA, regardless of who's on the card, because it's WrestleMania 39 LA. If you save Roman and Rock for a later day, you're pretty much guaranteeing that whatever event that they pop up at is going to be another sellout. I would just do a Rock Roman at a SummerSlam, a Rock Roman just for another, maybe another WrestleMania. I don't know. I just don't think that The Rock needs the Royal Rumble, and the Royal Rumble doesn't need The Rock. Just give it to Cody, bro. So that's just like my
Please.
my stance.
I
Just
miss
give the
Cody.
Rumble to Cody. You don't like, the story is there. Don't mess it up. But we want to know what you guys think about this. So let us know if you think that The Rock need to win the Royal Rumble this year and go on to WrestleMania 39 to face Roman Reigns. But we're
So
moving on.
dope.
So, All Elite Wrestling has released the official gameplay trailer for their latest video game, Fight Forever. They've been heavily teasing the release of this game for like the past year and change. So, do you expect that this video game is going to be coming out anytime soon? Considering that it's a couple weeks away from Christmas, they've been releasing more and more content surrounding it. Do you think that we're going to be getting AEW Fight Forever soon?
I mean, Christmas is about to be around the corner. I feel like you'd be an idiot to drop it right now, because like right now this is like the month, if you're thinking about like middle to lower class people, whatever, like this is kind of the month for everyone struggling. So to
Yeah.
release a game right now when you kind of halfway probably got your gifts bought and all that stuff, and then to release a game, now you have your child say, "Mommy, Daddy, like I saw this new game." That's terrible. That's foul. I don't think Tony Khan is that foul, and I don't think he's that dumb and dense as a businessman to release anything in late December, January. That you're just setting these people up for failure in your game. I feel like if
Mm-hmm.
they were smart about it, maybe release it. I would say release it during the spring. I would say release it during the spring. You don't want to release things too much in the summer because people want to be out in the summer and have a life. I would release it if I were them around like Mania or their Double or Nothing time, that time frame where
Mm-hmm.
wrestling is so exciting. You know what I mean? I feel like that's when they're going to, but I think they're just going to keep teasing it. If you didn't release it now, like in the beginning of December, bro, you're not releasing it. Like you're not. You're not. You're dumb if you do. I'm so over this thing. Continue your
The
point while I pick up my
It's the
headphone for
fact that
the
that joint crept
85.
down your dreads is hilarious. But what I was gonna say
Yes.
is this. What I was gonna say is this. I think that AEW Fight Forever should come out during either the winter or right ahead of Double or Nothing. Because when I'm looking at holiday spending and you're looking at when is the best time to purchase stuff, winter, everyone's inside. So you're more likely to buy and actively play a video game when you're consistently inside because it's brick. So I would recommend them
Yeah.
releasing, like, holiday time is the first best time. I think the second best time is probably Double or Nothing. Why? Double or Nothing is the inaugural AEW pay-per-view. I think that the most attention is going to be around AEW during that time, and it would be the best time to promote that video game during that period of time because they're going to have an insane amount of attention and an insane amount of traffic going into that weekend. It's interesting because they keep revealing details about this video game, like saying that it's, instead of it being a yearly release, it's going to be a one-time release, and they're going to be consistently making upgrades to the video game. So it looks like they're putting a lot of work into it. But yeah, I just think that they just need to
I
release
respect
it.
that.
I think that they're gonna release. They have to release it within the next 6 months, though. Like AEW Fight Forever has to come out with the next 6 months. It's been teased for about 2 to 3 years now. You've been accumulating all of this talent. The last time we heard a substantial update about from Fight Forever, they were talking about, like, is Cody still going to be in the game because he just went to WWE, and so much has happened since then, right? Like between the whole CM Punk thing, and now you have more because you're signing more talent, right? It's like you're signing more talent, and it's just like now nobody really knows where the game is going to be. But lo and behold, we'll see what happens. But I just think that this video game needs to release within the next 6 months, because the last thing you want to do is tease something of this magnitude and then lose steam or lose traffic because you just keep talking about it. It's like I think the only thing that this is comparable to is Rihanna and her album that's never coming out. But
She said she's in the studio.
bro, she's raising a whole kid and is making $1 billion off of lingerie. She ain't dropping a thing, bro. But
Yes, a fact. And
anyway,
makeup.
and makeup, like, come on now. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of AEW, Fightful has reported on Tuesday that Ring of Honor has signed more names that have not been announced publicly, with the Final Battle pay-per-view on the horizon. Do you believe that Ring of Honor has a solidified TV deal or not?
I feel like with everything that Tony Khan has been doing to like push this title, and then we have a pay per view coming up for them essentially tomorrow, right? But no,
Mm-hmm.
today's Thursday. Well,
I
I'm
think it's
speaking crazy right now.
Saturday.
Saturday. Sorry, I had to think about that real quick. I feel like something has to be brewing for him to be so dedicated with what he's doing with the
Mm-hmm.
ROH belt and stuff like that. I feel like yeah, it probably has to be. And if they are, then thank God, thank the heavens, because they need it. I feel like that's what it's going to take for us to start like caring a little bit more about ROH. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say yes in short. What do you think?
I don't know, to be completely honest, because I think that I don't know if they have a deal locked in, because it's one of those things where it's like you're signing all of this talent, right? Wrestling is valuable on major networks, prime time hours, and right now is the middle of sports season, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like Dynamite and Rampage are going to be fluctuating throughout the year because Warner has deals with the NBA, with the NHL, right? USA Network and other networks like that, they have the same deals, as well as with NFL and all these other guys. So it's like, where would you realistically put Ring of Honor as far as a television program? Like, it's already been shown that you put this anytime later than 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. on a major network, it's probably not going to be doing well. Like, look at Rampage, right? So it's like, where would you put it? And I think that that's the one dilemma about the whole Ring of Honor situation, is that Tony Khan did a vanity purchase, and he had hopes and aspirations and beliefs of what Ring of Honor can be based on what he did with AEW, but he wasn't considering the entire sports market. Or maybe he did, and he was just hopeful and optimistic that things would work out. But it's just still also one of those things where it's like, okay, what's the plan? What's the move? So I don't know if they have a TV deal locked in. Apparently, this is something that he's going to be addressing after, I think after this week, he said, or something along those lines. So we'll see. Um, but moving on from that, speaking of All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan, it appears that AEW former or current or whatever talent CM Punk CM Punk has returned to the internet with some cryptic photos of his earliest run in WWE. One of them was him standing on the top rope with Luke Gallows in the background, and the other one was with Mickey James. And Mickey ended up reposting the photo saying, "Wouldn't change a thing," with hearts and da 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 da. So, what did you make of these cryptic photos posted by CM Punk?
He's a nasty man for that Mickey James photo, bro. I had to work backwards at this one because that one caught me off guard. Seeing him post that he's going to WWE, I'm like, all right, like that's significant, yes, because this man doesn't use his social media. So for him to do that, he's either trolling us or he's hinting to Hunter that he misses going back to WWE. Because again, he don't really use social media for nothing. But for Mickey James, that was odd. Almost like at first I saw the first photo, I'm like, sir, you're married, and so is she. What are you conspiring here? Because everyone knew you was a hoe back then. The ball photos you could have chose. You could have choose the one where y'all holding hands. Like, I don't know. This is odd. Like, why did you choose that? It was weird. It's weird to me. But then Nikki just acknowledged it, and then it wasn't even just what she wrote down; it was the song she chose. I'm not sure if you read the lyrics or whatnot, but it was just talking about like decisions and missing someone, and like, like almost as if like it was like a fling that like she hasn't gotten over. I'm like, why did she choose this song? Like her husband has her social media.
Right.
Like
And
this
did you
man's
know
probably
Nick
looking at this
follows you,
phone like
bro?
Will Smith cried, right? But
I'm weak. Not Will Smith.
I just feel like, oh my gosh, he dating him? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do we got another Jada situation going on? To me, it was weird. I'm not sure if if he was just in his bag. I don't know if he was trolling, but I have a weird feeling that underneath all this stuff, that he probably is hinting that he wants to come back home,
Mm.
which I'm not opposed to, but I still think he's a dirtbag. What did you think about the? I want to first of all hear your take on the Mickey James thing, because I thought that was just messy. That was
So,
messy.
so I think this my first point kind of coincides with the whole Mickey James thing, which is that I think CM Punk has said, I like to do things to mess around with fans. I like to troll fans. I like to troll people. And in that sense, it makes sense why he would post the photos that he posted. Now, as it pertains to the whole Mickey James response to her posting both of them together in WWE, what I will say is this: as a grown man who has had a dating history and a dating past, I don't think that there is anything wrong with having a healthy account of previous positive relationships that didn't exactly go the way that you expected it to go. Right? I personally like I don't think that there's anything wrong with that as long as you're not disrespecting boundaries or you trying to like circle back or spend the block, right? But I don't even think that either of them are trying to spend. I don't think CM Punk is trying to spend the block because I think he's happy where he's at. And he just wants to troll. I don't think Mickey James wants to spend the block. I just feel like Mickey James is just like, yo, that relationship didn't work out, but it was cool. Glad that it happened. And as someone who has had a past, and you know what I mean, like I can relate to that, and I understand that. Right now, would I have chose a song? And no, I'm not. No,
That was
absolutely
really
not.
extra.
That was just mess. That was just weird. But I understand the sentiment. Now, what I think this means for CM Punk, I think he was just trolling once again. But I do believe that both all options are on the table at this point. I think that it was interesting because an interview came out with Dax talking about CM Punk, and he was just like, yo, Punk had his locker room open. He was talking to young guys. He was giving them feedback on their matches. But what happens is that sometimes the detractors are louder than the people who have positive reviews. Powerhouse Hobbs has been one of those people who said, Punk helped me. Punk pulled me to the side and said, yo, this is what you should do going forward. Da, 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 da. Right. And now when we
Mm.
see what you call it, now we see like John Moxley and Hangman having like legit heat. It's like, wait a minute now, was Punk fully in the wrong, or was he on to something now? And so now that there's a bunch of questions, and I feel like CM Punk's wrestling future is a little bit open ended at this point. But I think he was just posting photos because this is CM Punk. This is the guy that went to the UBS arena and was crap talking the Islanders in their home arena as a
True.
Blackhawks fan. So like Punk is gonna joke. You know what I mean? Like Punk is gonna talk his talk and
That's
he's gonna
true.
joke. So it's just like I think he was just really just messing around and posting cryptic photos because he knows the power that he has. He knows the allure that he has, and he knows that whatever he does, he's gonna get people talking. And I honestly think it just boils back down to that. But I want to know what everybody else's opinions are regarding CM Punk. Do you think that he's coming back to WWE? Do you think his cryptic photos meant something? But we're gonna be moving on, and we are gonna be talking about our NXT deadline predictions. But before we get into that, it has been reported that there have been two major signees to the WWE Performance Center. We have KC Navarro and Kylie Ray. Now, we don't know much about Casey. I don't know much about KC, but we do know that Kylie Ray was with Impact Wrestling and with AEW and has departed from both companies due to an overwhelming schedule. And she had mental health reasons and things along that line. And we do want to highlight that mental health is real. Mental health problems are real. If you need help, seek help. But do you believe that she will be able to handle a WWE schedule, uh, even though she had to depart from Impact and AEW reportedly because of overwhelming schedules, or do you think it's going to be a different situation?
I mean, I don't want to tell her what she can and cannot do. I mean, she's a grown ass woman who's going to do what she wants to do regardless. But I just think that, like, if you couldn't handle the basics, all right, there's been a lot of people from WWE, past and present, that express of how vigorous their schedule is, how exhausting that it is, that they can't see their families often, that it gets depression. It does not depression. Sorry, my grammar sucks. Depressing. It does get blue. Um, you know what I mean? But they're mentally like strong enough to withstand the schedule. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Kylie has a history in smaller companies. I think with AEW, you only have to go to work like once a week, if I'm not mistaken, unless you work for other promotions or you have a pay per view. She managed to drop out fairly fast, and then I don't even know what Impact schedule is like. I'm assuming you probably do this once a week as well. I just think that that's quite a jump because WWE got house shows, they got pay-per-views, they got events here, this plug-in, this plug-in. You have to be there. There's no backing out once you sign with a WWE contract. Otherwise, you're going to go through hell trying to get out of it unless someone fires you. And this thing that upsets me about her is that she's likable. There's no doubt that if she comes in with the gimmick that we've seen her with on the indies, that she's going to be likable. Like there's no like doubt about that. She reminds me a lot of like Bailey in her early years. But it's just like we live in a day and age where wrestling fans just have a very short attention span. We give up even on the people that we like very easily
Mm,
because of a
very
bad
true.
booking decision. So to see someone that shows up, then we get slightly connected to her, and then she just keeps, pulling the cord for mental health reasons. Again, like you said, we support mental health here on this podcast, but it's just like if you can't do it, I'm not just saying don't, but be realistic.
Mm,
Be realistic if you cannot handle it, because now it comes off like a manic decision that
mm,
she would leave wrestling and then choose a more vigorous schedule and just assume that she could handle it. Now, she might prove me wrong, and she may, but the thing is that how are fans going to take for you? Because as far as we know, and from what I'm even seeing on the internet, and again, from my own personal take, a lot of us don't really care to see her because it feels like you already give it up on us twice when we try to like you. You know
mm,
what I mean? So she's going to have to come back and come back hard and strong if she wants to gain that rapport. Because again, it's one thing, and we talked about this in private. If you're like a Sasha Banks, you're like a Charlotte, you're like a Roman Reigns or whatnot, you're in a top company and you establish that rapport and you paid your dues and you pay your dues steadily to where your fans respect you enough that if you got to pull the cord and you got to take a mental health break or be like Charlotte and go away for your wedding, your honeymoon, all that stuff, or be like a Roman and go away for health complications or whatever. We are waiting here patiently for you to come back. We understand that we know that you're going to come back. It's kind of like with a baby in like psychology, you know what I mean?
mm.
Like a baby just like when you leave the room just thinks you just don't exist anymore.
Right.
That's what it just feels like with Kylie. That's what it feels like with Kylie. It feels like if she goes away, she'll never come back.
Mm,
So I'm not expecting that while she's here, she's going to she's going to stay for long unless she's forced to and she just stays home. And God knows how Triple H is going to take to that because their women's division is kind of already suffering. We need people who are
mm.
ready to show up to work and keep up with the schedule. And man, if you can't do it, that's okay. But I mean, if she flops here, who else is going to take her at this point? If she flops here, you already screwed up at two major promotions. This is an even bigger opportunity. If she flops, like I'm gonna feel really bad for her. She's gonna have no choice but to throw in the towel. But no one's gonna want to try, and I can't blame them for not wanting to try. And I'm
Right.
a big mental health advocate, y'all. I really am. You know what I mean? It's just that you can't do it don't, and that's okay to accept it, or maybe just take a different role that's doable, that's not as vigorous. But go on. I'm sorry. It looked like you want to say something. I just been rambling about Kylie.
You're good. No, you're good. I was gonna say you touched on something that was very, very pivotal. When it comes to mental health, a big, big aspect is self awareness. Right? You need to know yourself. You need to know your triggers. You need to know the environments that you're going into, and you want to know what could possibly send you to a place where you don't want to be. And I think that that's so important, right? Like you need to know yourself, you need to know your environment, and you need to know, like, hey, I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this because of X, Y, and Z. So I think that that self awareness is so pivotal when it comes to mental health, and I think that I hope that Kylie Ray has taken in all the factors as far as entering this new work environment because, like you said, the WWE work schedule is a lot more rigorous. With AEW, they meet up once a week, maybe twice a week. With Impact, it's once a month. They do they do 2 days worth of tapings, and then they're free.
She
So
could
it's
handle that.
like, and so it's just like, yeah, hey. So I
Oh
look,
golly.
I don't know what has happened between AEW or Impact and now with WWE. Maybe she has gotten the help that can allow her to endure, and if so, I commend her for that. But it is very, very good. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this shapes up, and I'm selfishly hoping that this comes to fruition and that she endures well selflessly first because I we want to see that young woman get paid. We want to see her do well, and I think another thing that I'm just very, very intrigued on, the Kylie Ray versus Bailey story is going to write itself. The the
Whew.
opportunity is there. Um of Kylie being the young bubbly personality and her going up against Bailey. I would love to see that. But once again, I just want to see Kylie Ray do well. Hopefully she endures, and I'm sending all my love and my well wishes to her. So we'll see what happens with that. But moving on, speaking of NXT, it appears as if we finally have a new character. It has been announced that the former Bellator MMA fighter Valerie Loreda will now go under the alias of Lola Vice. If you don't remember who she is the first ever Cuban American woman in history to sign with WWE. So I want to know any of your first impressions on the name change, on her, and if you have any excitement towards her.
Um, I saw a little bit of her on Instagram. Very beautiful woman, by the way. There's no doubt that off of what I've seen from, I mean, again, she has the look. I mean, let's be honest, when it comes to wrestling, especially with these type of fans we have, sex is going to sell. So she's definitely going to be an attention grabber just right off the rip of the way she looks. But she's actually pretty like talented and skilled. I was watching a little bit of her training and doing her MMA stuff. It'd be nice to see someone that has like an MMA background, I guess, that gets like a proper like usage in WWE because I don't think anyone has. Ronda Rousey had, but flopped. And then we love people like Shayna Baszler, but she doesn't get booked properly. Um, and who else do we have that has an MMA background? I thought Sonya Deville for the longest did, but I realized that was a gimmick. And then we had Jesse Van Duke and
Marina
the other
Shafir.
one that's really bad.
Marina
Yes, that
Shafir.
one, the
Oh my
terrible
god.
one. Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't wear. But we're not gonna make this podcast any longer than it has been. But it'd be nice to have someone that does fulfill that role, is excited to be here, is going to do their job. But I like the little twist on her, having being a Cuban American woman here at WWE. So I mean, that's awesome. Great. We love precedents here. Yay, yay. But I just hope that if she is gonna be brought in, she's gonna be properly utilized. But I feel like just because of the way she just looks, like this the presence she just has
Mm-hmm.
from me just going through her page, I feel like she's going to be a big thing. At least in NXT. I do feel like she's going to be like someone that's going to, I'm not going to say be like the main attraction of the show, but she's probably going to give the women's division a little bit of that oomph that we're looking for. That's something that's different.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited. I don't know how they're going to use her, but I'm excited.
So here's my take on it. Number one, the name Lola Vice is fire. That joint is so tough. I don't know where she's like. I know that she's a Cuban American woman. I don't know where she's from, but I would love to see some Miami Vice colors attached to her persona. Um, so there's that. I think that this is huge, obviously, with the MMA background and her being who she is and her following on Instagram and her appearance, who she is aesthetically. But the thing that I'm paying attention to is the markets that she can possibly break into. WWE has never been one to stray away from the Latin market. We see how they treated Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, now with Dominic Mysterio, now with LDF. We see how they have broken into the Puerto Rican market with the Colones and Zelina Vega and all these other WWE superstars. However, we've never seen WWE successfully break into the Cuban market since Savio Vega, in my opinion. And so now that we have a woman superstar who can break into that market, is going to be very, very interesting to see how she's used, how they're going to allow her to represent her culture, because I believe that they need to do that. I believe that if you're going to let LDF be LDF and the Mysterios to be who they are, you need to let Lola Vice be Lola Vice, and you need to let her integrate elements of her culture into her character, because that's what's going to make her distinct and that's what's going to make her special. So I think that that's very, very important. But I love what I'm seeing. Once again, WWE is in the lab and they are cranking out women and men who have the potential to be mainstream stars. And I'm very, very excited to see what comes of Lola Vice. But we're gonna move on because this Saturday is NXT Deadline. It is the last WWE premium event of the year, but it is also the last NXT premium event of the year. And we got 2 Iron Survivor matches as well as other matches involved, including some other joints that got thrown in at the last minute, which I'm very, very excited for. So, without further ado, we are going to go right into our predictions for this match. So the first match that we have is Alba Fire versus Isla Dawn in a singles match. As we've known, match has been building since Isla Dawn interfered in the Alba Fire versus Mandy Rose NXT Women's Championship match some weeks back. So I want to know, who do you have in this match?
All right, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
God damn it. Okay. Thank
But
God.
I think my
All right, I'm
echo
just gonna
is
have to
on
mute
as well.
myself.
So
Copy. All right, I'm just gonna speak, and then when it's your turn to speak, yeah. All right. That stupid headphones. Just disregard people. Anyways, do. Okay, we had Mandy Rose versus. Cause I did not hear you for like the last 15 seconds, bro. Mandy Rose versus who now?
It's Alba Fire versus Isla Dawn. I was saying that the buildup from this match started when Isla Dawn interfered in the Alba Fire versus Mandy Rose NXT Championship match.
Oh, I want to see more Isla. I like her. The girl with the orange hair. Whatever the hell she did a few weeks ago when she was being chaotic and pushed people off ladders and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I like her. I like Alba Fire, but I don't feel like they ever really want to do anything with her. And I'm not saying I've given up on her, but I'm saying I'm kind of lost a little bit of interest in her. But I like what they're doing with this. What Isla Dawn. So I'm gonna go with her. Your pick.
I want to see Isla Dawn. I think that the whatchamacallit. I think that the I think that the way to establish a star is by going up and establish women in the division. And I believe that even though Alba Fire has not won a championship since the NXT UK Women's Championship, Alba Fire is an established star, and I think that Alba may even go to the main roster soon. And I think that if that's the case, then you need to establish somebody new. And I think that Isla has the potential to be that somebody new. So that is my pick, Isla Dawn, for that match. Now, moving on to a match that we got last minute, but I am very excited for the NXT Tag Team Championships. We have Pretty Deadly versus The New Day. So, who do we have?
Pretty Deadly doesn't do anything for me, so I want the New Day. I don't think anyone would
Mm,
complain if the New Day win.
mm.
How about you?
I agree. I think that the New Day should win because where do they go after losing to the Usos? I don't want them floating in tag team purgatory on Raw or SmackDown. By them winning the NXT tag team titles, it elevates the titles. Whoever takes the titles off of the New Day, when they win the NXT titles, they're going to be elevated that much more. I also see Pretty Deadly making a main roster debut very, very soon because I think that they are main roster ready. So I think it's a win-win. The New Day wins the titles. Pretty Deadly goes up to the main roster. The New Day has something to do, and they're champions, which is what they're supposed to be. And you get a good match out of that. So now, moving on from that, we got for the NXT Championship, Braun Breaker versus Apollo Crews. Who do we have?
I want Apollo and I want Braun Breaker to just go to the main roster already.
Mm, interesting pick. I'm gonna go with Braun Breaker. I think that Braun is gonna win because I think that number one, I think this is gonna be a banger of a match. But number two, I just think that Braun wants to continue to ride this wave, and I don't think that Apollo can. I don't know. I don't know. I love Apollo, but I don't see him taking the belt off of Braun. But I can be proven wrong, and I would love to be proven wrong. But as of right now, I got Braun Breaker. All right. So moving on from that, we got our two Iron Survivor matches. So number one, we have the women's Iron Survivor match, uh, which features Zoe Stark, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, Kiana James, and Indy Hartwell. The winner of this will obviously be the number one contender for the NXT Women's Championship. So who do you have out of those five?
Let me look at this list again. You got me, yeah, Zoe, Cora, Roxanne, Kiana. Ooh, I like Kiana though. I want Kiana.
You want Kiana to win?
I was gonna say Roxanne, but Kiana. I would love if Kiana had an opportunity. That's something that she could definitely work with winning that. Yeah, let's go with Kiana.
I'm gonna go with Cora. I think that the character development of Cora Jade is something that we've been talking about on this show for a while. How the match with Mandy Rose is a very, very pivotal moment in her career. It allowed her to kind of change gears, and I think that both of us said Cora has to evolve in order to beat Mandy, and Cora kind of has to be Mandy in order to beat Mandy. So I think that Cora is going to realize her full potential on Saturday. She's going to be that number one contender, and I think that she's going to go into 2023. Mandy has nothing left to prove. Cora could beat Mandy, but I think that Cora is definitely going to win this match. And what happens after that is what happens after that. But then we have the men's Iron Survivor Challenge match, where we have Carmelo Hayes versus JD McDonough versus Grayson Waller versus Joe Gacy versus Axiom. So who do you have out of those five?
Jesus, who the hell is Axiom? I have to look that up real quick.
Masked
No,
wrestler.
seriously.
He what you call it? He won in the wild card match this past Tuesday.
Oh, all right. I had to get a good look at him. Yeah, no, he's not my pick. He's not my pick. I'm gonna. Man, I love Carmelo Hayes, but he can't have everything. Like he can't have everything. I would love for him to win. I wouldn't complain if he did. I'm gonna go
Mm.
random. I'm gonna say Grayson Waller, even though I normally don't ever root for him ever. I'm gonna go with Grayson Waller.
I'm gonna go Carmelo. I'm gonna go Carmelo Hayes on this one just because I think that he is like the guy. Like he's that guy. And I think that because of his run with the North American Championship, they're gonna put him in a position to be NXT champion. Um, so yeah, I got Carmelo Hayes as the winner of the Iron Survivor Challenge. And I think that's all the matches for NXT Deadline. And once again, by the way, make sure that y'all join us for our 316 space for NXT Deadline on Saturday. We're opening up the room at 7:45. Bring your bevs, come out, pop out. It's going to be a lot of fun. But that concludes our show. This is probably our longest show to date. I'm very, very proud of it because we went through a lot in under 2 hours. But thank you guys so much for joining us for episode 20. We'll look to see you back for episode 21. Can you do something for me? But yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys next week, and we'll talk to you soon.